Hey everybody, this is Petey from the Spin Rack. We also have
Alvin
Mars,
Ellis, ready to rock.
Mars,
today Mars. Yes, Mars is off his duties as he's about to be fired as the host of the show. But today we have Beau DeMayo. This is a video he had up for a while, and he's talking about his experiences now and all of the sentiments and all of the, as he would say, rumors that are coming out from Marvel Entertainment. And he talks a little bit about Blade 2, Blade movie also here, just what's been said and what happened. And I guess it's similar to the stuff that was going on with the black people on Lost. But already, said, and let's pull this all the way back. Go.
Hey everyone. First, I want to welcome you to my new OnlyFans page. It's going to be a little bit unorthodox what I'm doing here, admittedly, but I needed a safe space to be able to post this video as well as future content without fear of harassment or censorship. And before I get to what I plan to do with this page, I first want to address the massive elephant in the room. The allegations being made against me are very serious, and I take them seriously. It's why I took some time to myself these last few weeks. One, to sit with my legal team and figure out how best to respond. But more importantly, to sit with those I love, those closest to me, and assure them of what I will assure you now and what they already knew. These allegations of egregious misconduct are false. The rumors being spread around me online are lies, and they are offensive. But more concerning is that they're a smear campaign designed to discredit my credibility in order to cover up egregious, prejudicial misconduct, stretching from select crew members on X-Men 97 all the way to the top of Marvel Studios. And they're not just trying to discredit me using incredibly misleading press releases, but also through coordinated leaks and bot attacks, as well as anonymous scoops being given to tabloid sites and podcasters. You've maybe heard some of these. I've heard rumbling and whispers about Beau. Now, back when I was in high school, we called this gossip. Unlike then, today, luckily, I have a legal team who has forensic investigators tracking these attack scoops and leaks so that we can hold those responsible for defamation, harassment, and for inciting outright criminal threats of violence. Now, my lawyer told Deadline that this is Disney and Marvel's standard playbook. They have done this to other artists like me. With me, it's look at his Instagram. Doesn't he look thirsty? Isn't he a narcissistic egomaniac? Isn't it too vulgar, too sexual? This isn't someone celebrating their hard work or their journey in overcoming years of internalized racism and homophobia to finally become comfortable in their own skin. No, this is something shameful. This is smoke for a larger fire of predatory behavior. Growing up getting black in the South, I had to learn to accept that I am not everybody's cup of tea, and that I would, by virtue of just being me, rub some people the wrong way. And let's be honest, this is true of almost everyone. Personality conflicts happen, especially in creative environments like Hollywood. I've worked on a lot of series under some showrunners who have imparted some lessons to me that I tried to apply on X-Men 97. And now having run a show, I look back with a newfound appreciation for the struggles those showrunners faced. And I think the biggest takeaway I've had is that nobody is perfect. We all make mistakes. Most of us are just trying to do our best. And usually, grace and empathy are the best response to conflict and adversity. If you think about it, that's what X-Men 97 Season 1 was all about. But what's happening with Marvel, what's been going on here, is unlike anything I've ever experienced in this industry. And it takes me back to those days of bigotry and antiquated personalities in the South. Now, the way things have also escalated behind the scenes in ways that I haven't been able to talk about, as well and on top of the emotional trauma that was inflicted upon me while working on this series, has taken me to some pretty dark places. Places I'm not proud of. Places that would have gotten a whole lot worse had friends and coworkers and family not rallied around me these last few months to remind me of who I am. Because honestly, I'm just defeated and I'm tired and I'm a nobody who made one great show. And now I'm a nobody being viciously punished for it. And to spend decades fighting for a seat at a table where people like me usually don't get to sit. I think I can count the number of black gay showrunners, or just black showrunners in Hollywood, on one or two hands. To just sacrifice everything and to do so much hard work to get there, and then have it all stolen, and your character assassinated because of lies is just, I don't know. As easy as it would be to hide away and run, I don't think I have a choice. We talk a lot about doing better, being the change we want to see. But that doesn't happen if we remain silent. No matter how tired or defeated or how scared we may be, no matter if our reputation is being dragged through the mud in the public eye. Ironically, this is the central creed of X-Men, right? And while those at Marvel and those crew members who colluded with them on X-Men 97 can sleep at night, knowing what I know, knowing what they've done, I can't, and I haven't. Because the price of me being silent is other artists walking into that studio thinking that they are safe and protected, and later finding out that they're working for individuals who would profit off of shows and movies like Black Panther and X-Men, all the while themselves being the very villains those heroes face and fight every day just to have the right to be their authentic selves. When I took the job on X-Men, I was told that they valued my perspective and experiences as a queer black man. And I made it very clear to them that I was not going to be the black stamp of approval on the project. So it was agreed that due to the themes of the X-Men, as well as my experience and the just general excitement around my pitch, that I would supervise all areas and stages of production. Now, with this, I assumed the studio would protect me from those who maybe harbor biases against having someone who looks, speaks, dresses, and thinks like me as their creative leader and boss. Now, why was this important to me? Guys, just turn on the news. It's common for minorities in leadership roles to not be taken seriously, to have their credentials and their resumes continually questioned by those above and below them, and just generally be written off as a diversity hire who didn't earn the job. I thought Marvel would have my back against this stuff. Instead, the studio looked the other way as my identity was weaponized by Marvel execs and select crew members to undermine me, create a humiliating environment where people felt emboldened to use the same dog-whistling stereotypes favored by bigots for decades. He's big, he's intimidating, too opinionated, angry, emotional, flamboyant, dramatic, a pervert. When I called these things out, they pivoted to attacking my talent, accusing me of being too much of a fanboy. They openly resented me fighting for the fans, fighting for the comics. They accused me of playing karaoke with those comics. And repeatedly, I was told by these individuals that we should be doing our own version of X-Men, writing new stories and not adapting those written by old white men, by which I could only assume they were referencing individuals like Stan Lee and Chris Claremont. Now, my response to this was to try to calmly outline that fans didn't want to see our version of the X-Men. They, like me, want to see the characters that they have loved for decades faithfully adapted on screen. Now, in return, these individuals would then attempt to sabotage me on my job, painting me as abusive. When I declined to make wholesale changes to characters, when I declined to have Jubilee fire plasmoids from her mouth, or make gang signs, or paint the sky with plasmoids in the shape of middle fingers. What was worse, and what really just hurt, is as I fought for when I felt that fans and audiences want, I was then being painted as being uncollaborative, too difficult, too much of a fanboy, and one executive's favorite phrase to fire at me: Beau, you need to learn to turn your comic book collector brain off. They chose to treat me as a child that needed to be scolded, even as I was drawing upon 40 plus years of dealing with ignorance just like theirs, having survived traumas that they cannot even begin to imagine, never mind understand or appreciate. Maybe, and yes, needless to say, look around me, I take X-Men very seriously. Specifically, I take this specific show's legacy very seriously. It saved my life as a kid, and I know it did others. So when individuals refer to it as just a cartoon, that bumped me. Now, luckily, as I said before, I grew up learning how to spot these types of tactics, these antiquated personality, this type of scapegoating and stereotypes. And so knowing that, and then with the help of the amazingly talented crew on X-Men 97, was still able to get X-Men 97 across the finish line, even if doing so cost me my job and now my reputation. So this gets to the bigger, larger question, the bigger picture. What would cause Disney and Marvel to attack me this bad, to come at me this hard? I'm going to try to break it down as simply as I can, while operating within the parameters of some NDAs that my lawyer and I are still working out. I think the simplest way to put it is that the things I witnessed while working at Marvel were beyond wrong and unethical. It is wrong for a crew producer who repeatedly white-explains to his boss to respond to his boss's concerns on January 9th of this year with, "This has jack shit to do with me being white." It is wrong for that same producer to repeatedly joke to the crew about how he showed my thirst traps on Instagram to his underage son, and his kid is wondering, do they need to buy me shirts for Christmas? It is wrong for this same producer when I notify them that one of our leads is having a potentially exploitative sexual relationship with a PA, for this producer to bury my report and actually go to the individual in question and let them know that I had ratted on them so that they can then work together to discredit me. It is wrong for Marvel execs to roll their eyes when I raise concerns about being bullied and targeted on account of my identity, to tell me to deal with it because these individuals are amazingly talented. It is wrong for an artist on the show to repeatedly denounce all men as jerks and to accuse me of failing the cause because I'm keeping a jerk like Cyclops as leader of the team. It is wrong to question my intelligence because my muscles don't make me look like a writer, or to talk about how I am fit with 2 C's. It is wrong for Marvel leadership to pat themselves on the back while giving me notes on a Blade script, a table of white men laughing as they tell me, "Hey, look at us. We hired a young Wesley Snipes to write the new Blade movie." And one of the reasons I wanted to do this video is so that you can see that Wesley Snipes and I look nothing alike. It is wrong when I suggested this past February that we reach out to RuPaul's Drag Race to find a way to promote X-Men, a beloved queer franchise, on that show, to be told by Marvel that they wouldn't want to alienate certain audiences. It is wrong for their publicity department to list homosexuality as a hot button issue to avoid alongside school shootings, the Gaza conflict, and abortion. It is wrong for Marvel execs to foster inappropriate professional relationships with the artist I mentioned prior so as to push others out of the creative process who are not like them based on their identities. It is wrong for these 2 same individuals to write off an interracial relationship between Bishop and another white character as creepy and something that belongs on Skinamax. Of course, these 2 individuals did not have any issues with far racier moments in season 1 involving white characters. And what I want to point out here is these anonymous scoops that keep on using the word creepy. I heard that term from these individuals multiple times. It is wrong for this lead artist to relay to me at a company barbecue in 2021 that her husband felt that I must get a lot of dick based upon how I look. It is wrong to paint me as a nightmare for advocating for more representation for characters like Storm and Bishop and more. And if you want to know why they're coming at me so hard, why they're risking basically just lying to you, it's because this is not even the half of it. Ultimately, the last straw for me was when I got to Atlanta to work on Blade, and I saw others being treated like me, being told that someone needed to crack the whip around here. Crack the whip in Atlanta, Georgia, at Tyler Perry Studios, which were formerly barracks during the Civil War. Now, after witnessing this and far worse incidences that I'm not yet prepared to talk about on Blade, I relayed my concerns to Marvel on September 6th, 2022, hoping to work with them to do better, urging them to reflect on the biases that we all have. In return, I was removed from the project in the middle of moving to Atlanta for production, and then had my role on season 2 of X-Men 97 aggressively marginalized, despite the integrity of my work in season 1. And this is going to be very important, because the quality of my work on X-Men 97 has been spoken about by Marvel several times, like Brad Winterbaum's March 15th interview with Entertainment Weekly following my exit of the show. It happened again on May 17th, also in EW, when Winterbaum insisted that they were following my blueprint and my vision for season 2. Now, this raises a question. If all these rumors and this pattern of egregious misconduct were true, why would you have the head of Marvel TV making such statements to the press? When fans reacted badly to me being dismissed, when they began demanding me back, why not say all of this then? But when I spoke out about the Emmys and them stripping me of my season 2 credits based upon a gay pride post, then all these narratives appear. And actually, if I really think about it, the season 2 credit issue and them stripping is a perfect example of the type of manipulative dishonesty they're going for here. Disney has alleged that I breached my exit agreement several times. Breaches, much like egregious, sound so bad, so serious. I must have done something terrible after my exit to make them strip me of my credits. But here's what really happened. The exit agreement, which they forced me to sign, coerced me to sign under threat of removing all of my credits, lacked certain civil rights protections that California law requires, thus rendering it invalid. My legal team notified them of this, but still, Marvel persisted for months to harass and stalk my social media, looking for any ammo possible to attack me. Now, what were these breaches, though, they're actually referencing? It was me talking to you, the fans. It was me speaking about Pulse after episode 5 on Twitter and how much of an influence it was on the vision of the series. It was me at a bar, speaking at a screening event, talking about how I had outlined 5 seasons of the show. It was me thanking fans on Twitter and Instagram for their support, highlighting cast and crew, speaking positively about Marvel, posting fan art. These were the offensive breaches. And somehow they justify this campaign to erase me from the show I created, with Marvel going so far as to actively blacklist me from third-party non-Disney Comic-Con panels this past summer, all the way to denying me invites and blocking me from attending award shows like the Emmys, which we've talked about. And as I go through all this, I really have to wonder just how X-Men Season 1 managed to turn out as well as it did. And then I think about the crew. The overwhelming majority of the crew of X-Men 97 are some of the most talented, kind-hearted people I have ever met. They're insanely talented. And I still feel so honored that they trusted me and my vision and worked so hard to make it a reality, despite Marvel and others on the crew who would have had us deliver something wholly subpar for the sake of their egos. I have received a lot of messages from them, a lot of messages of support and love, and they have gotten me through some really dark times, the dark times I was talking about earlier. But I was also infuriated to learn that Marvel publicity internally has been actively working to prevent them from speaking about their positive work experiences with me, going so far as to interrupt interviews they are giving to sites like IGN and forcing them to re-record answers that erase me or mitigate my contributions. They've been told not to give Beau too much credit or to not go overboard with how influential Beau was on the series. And when Marvel tells you to do something, comes with the implied threat of what will happen if you don't. And if the crew had any doubts, they just needed to look at what happened and what is happening with me right now. But actually, what concerns me the most out of these messages I have received is the fact that the X-Men 97 crew are still being abused, just like I was. Abused with impossible pipeline demand that endanger their health and safety, and studio politics that create a toxic environment that turns individuals against one another, stokes paranoia to ensure compliance. These people are tired, they're scared, some of them are broken, and they've been reaching out to me for help. And we've seen VFX artists try to raise awareness about the near criminal working conditions at Marvel. Nothing has changed. I had editors falling asleep at the wheel. I had individuals rapidly losing weight, having mental breakdowns. And when I reached out to Marvel about these safety issues, when I emailed them, the response I got was the same response I got when I reported prejudicial conduct, more retaliation. Now, in the end, the offenses Marvel and others have leaked are designed to distract you from what really offended them. As someone like me dared to speak truth to people like them. They wanted me to be the black staple of approval on this project. I declined. They wanted to erase aspects of my personality that clashed or proved inconvenient with the misguided narratives they wanted to establish. I declined. They tried to intimidate me with both explicit and implied threats. I was not intimidated. Everything they have done since then has been designed not just to silence me and smear me, but to crush me and to remind me to know my role. So what next then? Honestly, it is so tempting to just drop all the names and receipts that I have online. It has been soul-crushing watching the very same people who committed the above do press and podcast interviews, screening Q&As, Comic-Con panels, where they claim to be fans, while discussing a show that denounces the very prejudice and ignorance that they peddle. Honestly, this means you have actually already seen their faces and may already know their names. And should X-Men 97 win an Emmy, you'll see them again as some of the faces that take that stage to accept an award for a show about intolerance and identity are the very same people who disrespected mine and routinely wrote me off as a DEI hire. Tempting as it may be to just drop it all online, that would make me no better than them. I would prefer to present this evidence to Disney and Marvel and work with them so that those responsible are able to receive what I was not: a full and fair investigation away from the public eye, one that is confidential and that resembles some form of just ethical due process. Disney, Marvel, my team and I have already started your investigation. I have the receipts and the eyewitnesses, so long as you stop coercing them to lie. You can keep attacking me with lies and misinformation, and we can become the ugliest, most annoying version of that back and forth tennis ball me. Or you can start acting like a studio that is worthy of a show like X-Men 90s. This is me, basically trying to do the right thing. And this is Marvel's chance to do the same. And just like with the past 4 years, I'm still willing, I'm still here, trying to help you seize the opportunity to do better. Now, while my legal team and I work to hold those accountable, and we will, I will be using this page to basically give fans and audiences what they have been asking me for months, which is behind the scenes content on how we created X-Men 97, as well as being able to just talk about other shows I've been on, other experiences, talk about writing as a craft, and all things nerdy, gay, and black. This is also going to give me a great opportunity to highlight individuals on the show, unsung heroes, in my opinion, who have been also erased from press events due to studio politics or just generally because they support me. But what I'll also be doing is showing you how I baked the very trauma I was experiencing at Marvel into the show I was making for them. When Magneto talks about how they still come for you even if you play by their rule, when Storm laments how the more she used her gifts to help humans, the more they hated her, I did not write these lines by accident. This was me coping with being gay, black, and open about it at Marvel Studios. Now, before I end, I want to thank everybody for just showing up, for listening. I know there will be people, many people, who for various reasons will not believe a thing I've said, who think I'm just pulling the diversity cards. But to those of you who do believe, and actually, now that I think about it, to those of you who don't but still took the time to watch all of this, thank you. Thank you for hearing me out. Because despite all of this, despite what I've endured and what I still yet will endure, the fact that we were able to give fans and audiences something like X-Men 97, something where people just felt so seen and heard, makes all of this work. Ultimately, it's my love for X-Men that is compelling me to speak the truth today, full well knowing that it could likely end my career. One last thing that bears mentioning. Across 3 projects and in 6 years of working for Marvel, I was never once spoken to, disciplined, warned by HR. That is, until 4 days after I sent a text message to a Marvel employee saying that I no longer felt safe at the studio as a gay black man. This conversation with HR, 4 days after I sent that text, was the same conversation where I was dismissed. Thank you for listening. I'm really looking forward to the content we're going to be providing here, to discussing all things nerdy and X-Men. And so I will see you next week. Thank you.
Wow. That is interesting. I gotta say, definitely puts a new light on what we've been hearing about the whole Beau DeMayo situation. You know, I guess the only way to get this settled is we got to see receipts on it on both sides and see what's going on. You know, but I mean, the fact that we do know that there are people in Hollywood who don't believe that we should be following the original stories and original characters, that's really, really bad. And if he was the one standing up for those characters to be who they truly are, that's a good thing, you know. And I mean, because we've constantly seen characters that we've grown up with, we've read with, being constantly undermined, changed, challenged, you know, into characters that we don't understand or even know what they are. So if he did that, I'm all thumbs up for him. So, but I think the only way to get to the end of this is that we're gonna have to probably see all the receipts to see what's going on, what actually happened. If Disney did something, they have to take the hit for that, no matter what, you know. But this is an ongoing saga. It's been going on what 2 years now.
Well, since the show, basically a little after the show started.
So it started before he's saying. So let's say 2 years,
I'm
three
saying
years.
him. I'm saying that publicly it
Yeah.
came out, and then then slam, all this good press, and then next thing you know, they're putting out a lot of information, which was nothing really. The hard part is, I know you just mentioned needing his receipts, but
No, I'm saying all the receipts, not just his. All.
that's the thing. Where there's a lot of um, but that's one of the things where it's like they come out, they do the press, and the hard part of being in the writer's room or the showrunner or that sort of thing is that you constantly have a situation where, I think like the law situation where it's saying like was totally, they were saying a lot of they were saying a lot of racist stuff on the show in the showrunner. And the thing is, to do your next job, you have to be a good distance away and secure in your next job to say something. So at this point, the only place for him to do is to work is to do, uncredited screenwriting. That would be the next stage. So he'd basically be out of the business where obviously he worked his way up in animation to then get all this negative stuff, and then next, be behind the scenes, working on things, writing scripts, and then finding his way back to this after a very negative thing. So I wouldn't. That's the thing. I wouldn't even. I hear you, but I wouldn't even want to hear that because they're all having say let's compare receipts because Marvel has slammed so hard on the situation and allowed us to say, well, something else is coming out. Wait till you hear the other thing that happened. Wait till that happens. And it's like, no, I heard. Like I heard, there's so many people, friends of mine say, oh, this is some other stuff. And the same happened with the guy from Creed, with the Creed 3. He's like, oh, there's more. Oh, I heard the history. And then you hear nothing, everyone forgets, and they move on.
Yeah, I mean, it's say, especially Creed, the stuff that happened to that dude, who was Kang. You know, everybody remembers the story when he gets convicted, but no one realizes that this stuff was like, if you saw the video, you would say this is crazy, absolutely nutty case. It never should have probably been brought. But it's horrible. And then one of the things that's horrible is that they love painting people as if they're minorities, saying that they are DEI higher when you don't. The question, what you need to be seeing is what is the work, the output of the work that they put out. And X-Men 97 was extremely well received. It was one of the top shows that was on Marvel that came out. I mean, comic book fans loved it. New fans liked it. So it's amazing. But I mean, we don't know more until we learn more about the story. What actually happened, how these things go. All these back and forth accusations until we can actually see something work its way out. Really don't normally want to see something like that. That I would prefer it to be taken care of privately. And I thought it probably was because it's been quiet for a little while, at least from what I see. But I'm looking up some new articles, and I guess they said that he's dropped the paywall from the OnlyFans now, so that anybody can see what he was talking about. So, wow, you know. And it would be extremely sad, according to what you're saying, if he can't work in the industry. I mean, he's worked on The Witcher. He's worked on, he's working on a screenplay for Black Panther. He was working on 97. So, I mean, clearly they wouldn't pick him unless he had some talent. You know.
Well, it's just I'm saying it's just what do they call it? Like he's a showrunner. It'd be kind of like director's jail, where you just you to do touch ups and script doctoring and that sort of thing. You probably can. I mean, what was it? Christopher McQuarrie. Who else? And he didn't have anything. No, actually, no. You just had. Sometimes when you have a movie that fails, then they're like, well, you can't. The guy who did Straight Out of Brooklyn, since he did the ink was it Inkwell, and that didn't do well. So basically, or even to do someone who had a scandal. Who's that guy? Louis C.K., who was known for his writing. Obviously, behind the scenes, he was doing a lot of writing. So, he didn't seem like he was hurting for money. So it
Right.
seemed like he would probably be the first in line to do, behind the scenes sort of thing. But this kind of, public thing, and the hard part is to have to say something publicly because it's almost a kiss of death in this business to be like you handle stuff through the courts, even if they're tearing down your name, then it's like, well, we can't trust you to keep this all quiet. You know, we need everything quiet. I think the same happened to Eric Monty, but Eric Monty was in a different situation. He didn't like what was going on, but he had a movie going on. He had a movie happening, so he went and did Cooley High, leaving the Jeffersons and what was it? And Archie, what was it? All in the Family, leaving those shows as one of the writers, and then next thing you know, he sued them and he won his
Also,
he got his $1 million out of Norman Lear, but he couldn't, get the movie project that he wanted off the ground. And then he was basically, I guess, struggling. He also had addictions to deal with. But and he said himself, like because that thing wasn't public. So he said, what would he do different? He said, well, I would have stayed. And once the Jeffersons got to number one, I would have, told Norman Lear, look, the show works. It's, I came up with it, came up with these characters, fire these other guys, that sort of thing. So, which is basically what, same with Roseanne on what's the name? She said, once my show goes to number one, I'm firing everybody, and that's what you kind of do. So. But,
that's it.
since it's been out there and there's a lot of, sentiment, I wanted to, you know, I know it's, get this out there so we can talk about it. It's
Yeah, I
not the
mean,
first time I've heard it. And same sort of thing in Lost, where they would just ton of wow things said. So, and this is also not to say that I think some of the ideas. I know there's I think Peter David brought up the connection between like the gay culture and X-Men specifically, but some of the stuff I'm like, sounds weird. Some of the ideas of the promotion, but otherwise, it seemed like he put out a show that people like. I'm being the fan that I was. I needed even closer to the comics, but that's the other thing you can see when it's harder for people to be in these things and be like the karaoke line. That was the line where he said you're doing karaoke of the comics, and I think a lot of people like to write their own stuff. Like, okay, we got the X-Men, we know what they're about. We'll use this story and we'll branch off into a whole arc that we want to do. And I think to some extent, the original cartoon had a lot of stuff that was very close to the original stories. Some of the stuff, I think, obviously, I think the Phoenix story was close. I think the ending was the closest we've ever gotten. The ending was kind of off. I think the Proteus story was different, the Alpha Flight, but they had some of the basic stuff in there. So anyway, it looks like we need to close this out.
hey, what about Cal? Cal have anything to say about it?
Yeah, I was waiting for you guys to,
Uh,
Wait,
Saves everything.
what show are you on? You just waiting for nothing. Go.
What do you mean waiting for nothing? You guys would make it look. This is not
Okay,
our
I'm sorry.
usual fare. That was a very serious video. I was taking it seriously, and I
Okay.
didn't want this wasn't like a back and forth, type of thing for us. So if you had something to say, I was going to respect it. Mars started, you started, I'm respecting it.
Okay,
And
I'm
then,
sorry. I apologize. I'm wrong. I'm definitely wrong. No sarcasm. No, what's I should have. Excuse me.
no, I mean, for me, it's really difficult because, I like to keep my private stuff private. I don't want anybody in my business. So I really feel for him that he was obviously I mean, when you got one of these big companies, corporation, the government, whatever it is, and they decide to target you, right or wrong, regardless of what the situation is, it's a lot to contend with. And then you got the internet, which already makes a decision based on the stuff that they see. I mean, you saw this with Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, where Johnny Depp was like this whack job villain, and then you get more information, and they literally do a 180 and they're blazing to go after after Amber Heard. And I've always tried to keep my powder dry until I can know exactly what's going on. You hear this bit, and of course, it's a totally different situation when he breaks his silence, he gives his side of the story, and then you have the two of them to contend with. Uh, Still, at the end of the day, and I don't want this to come across as callous or cold. I don't know what happened. In it, I got one side saying one thing and trying to paint him a different way. He's saying something to the contrary and is also trying to paint things, a different way. I don't know exactly, what happened. I'm most sorry that it couldn't be handled privately because more than likely he's not going to, I mean, to work your way up to get to that point. And yeah, you'll be labeled. You're not going to necessarily get the opportunities that you work so hard for. That's probably the thing I'm, most sad about because these are not easy things to come by. And then you have your name besmirched. You become a meme. They say all of these things about you, and you, the individual, have to contend with all of this stuff. I saw this happen with what was this guy's name again? The artist Pisker, Ed Pisker.
Yeah, Ed Pisker. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Big big guy. Yeah,
very very similar with Ed Pisker. The only big difference is this guy seems to have had a much better support system because Ed Pisker ends up taking his life.
yeah.
And so, I look at these situations here and I'm like, yeah, it's better if, you can keep the private stuff private, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But, once it becomes public, it's not like it was, public in the 1950s or even in the early aughts. This is a totally different animal that comes after you, and it can really, really, break someone's psyche, sometimes irrevocably because of the things that you have to contend with. And we're still human beings at the end of the day. I'm glad that we do get to hear his side of the story. Still think it's unfortunate that he was put in a position that he even has to come out and do this type of stuff. It's just, it's just a very unfortunate situation from where I'm sitting because you work hard to get to this point. It's not easy to get there, and not for lack of, and this is the thing that they don't seem to get. It's not for lack of talent. It's not for lack of talent or, or lack of artistry or creativity. He did a good show. He did a good show. He should easily be doing season two, season three. It's a whole bunch of other stuff. And then of course they want to throw DEI in there for, for good measure. But if we were just to go by talent, and that's what you're supposed to be bringing to the table in terms of the creation of this show, well then A plus. But then all this other stuff gets mixed in, which always makes me wonder what exactly the heck was going on, behind the scenes, behind closed doors. And I don't really want to know because I didn't come here for all of that. I came here for the show. But obviously, if you were just to judge based on the season, then yeah, talented guy was able to put together a very good show. According to him, he put it together you know, under pressure and circumstances that weren't favorable towards a very, well-crafted, product coming out. And that has no bearing on this. This is about, your Instagram page, hearsay, gossip, whatever it may be. That is very, very unfortunate. At the end of the day, Yeah, you would like to think that you work hard, you get to some place, and you can leave that type of nonsense behind you. You can just go there and work. And unfortunately, that just doesn't seem to be the case in this scenario.
Yeah, if I mean, I would, as far as Disney, we've heard, from the past, there's an idea to worry about Disney, but I don't. It's a, this thing having been as far as fans, probably one of the biggest things. I don't know if it's the most viewed thing on Disney Plus, but for fans, it was such a big deal. And at the same time, to have a lot of hoopla and say, okay, all those things, happened, we pushed them out, we're gonna keep going, and we had to deal with it. That sort of thing. It was just kind of tough to hear all this stuff, and then I guess Marvel having the most, or Disney having the most voice, to slam him, and then next thing he's coming, and it's going to be the hard part is going to be a very long battle, and whether they come out and then they settle, and this that, and the other, and then people just look at it, well, we don't want another problem. So I know it's sort of what I was saying before, but
I hope they,
hmm?
no, to be honest, I hope he's able to settle so he doesn't have to go through any more of this nonsense. And then hopefully he can, he can still find a way to work, in the industry in which he worked his way up in, because Disney will be fine.
Yes, yeah, yeah. And it's like as long as it starts to stray from the comic books, to hear the sentiment, because when I think it got towards the end of X-Men, and then they put them in the classic costumes, and then the stuff that Mars doesn't want me to say about the dynamic between Magneto and the X-Men and Professor Xavier. Some of the things that Chris Claremont had said publicly that was coming out through the show with the times we're having now, and then having them, do the whole Adventures of Cyclops and Jean Grey miniseries, where they, you actually get to see a portion where they, for the next season, where they get to be parents to Cable in the future. And I don't remember a story of them going to the past with them, but with Apocalypse. But hey, we'll see what happens. Yeah, so it's like you had something that where I'm over nitpicking the thing, and people are just like, oh my goodness, this is crazy. But it was easy to just kind of say, well, wait a second, we need to see this. No, 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 he did all this stuff. He was terrible. He had to go. So, yeah. And another thing I thought about when he said being one of the only black, but then he corrected to black and gay. I think when he mentioned that, I immediately thought of James Tucker, who does the Batman stuff. And it was great to see that on the DC side, he's not looked at as Bruce Timm or even Paul Dini, but he's been involved in the Batman stuff since Batman Brave and Bold, and he's been producing up to this Cape Crusader. So it's good to see on that side. He's been able to, I think when we did the cons, at one of those cons, he was at one of those things where they did the interviews. So good to see that, they don't seem to have that struggle on the DC side or DC animation.
Okay, hey, so if you like guys what you hear, give us a thumbs up, comment, subscribe. There's a lot to say, so hey, we'll definitely be on the or PD will definitely be responding. Spinnerack?
PD will be responding. We all should be.
Spinnerack?
We're out.
We are out.